All right, let me just give you guys a quick summary of the last hour. So I'm slightly frustrated. Had to wait half an hour to record because dogs were barking the whole time. So that was frustrating. I then finally record, spend 20 minutes. The camera dies halfway through. Wait for that to recharge, only to find out my microphone wasn't plugged in. Some of those things were my fault. I'm not blaming anyone, but it's kind of annoying, so if you do like the video, that would be much appreciated. But forgetting about that, forgetting about my issues, let's talk about the New York Knicks. And let's start by saying, raise your hand if you doubted the New York Knicks heading into the season. Raise it. Come on. I know you doubted them. Raise your hand. Just raise it. It's nothing wrong with that. Oh, you thought Julius Randle was going to be the MVP. Okay. You thought Julius Randle was going to be an MVP level player. Sure. Have it your way. I'll just say I disrespected the New York Knicks. I wasn't going out of my way, going onto the streets and being like, hey, the New York Knicks suck. They're terrible. All of those things. Basically just dismissed them. I'm like, oh, this is just going to be another lost season for the Knicks. Boy, was I wrong, because this is a team that was nearly the 15th seed last year. They were only a couple of games ahead of Cleveland. And now all of a sudden, they've got home court advantage as it stands in the playoffs on an 8-game winning streak. That's a turnaround. And they didn't do it the way a lot of people thought they were only going to be able to do it, by luring a huge free agent. Sorry, Theo Pinson, I know you've been instrumental, but he hasn't really been the huge free agent that everyone was hoping for. But they've managed to do it through a number of different ways. And even more impressive than just signing a superstar and letting him carry your franchise, I mean, Julius Randle, I guess you could kind of say that because he's been that good. But even more impressively than just doing that, they've just done it through good coaching, good chemistry, everyone playing their role to perfection. It's kind of that simple, but there's a little bit more to it. And I kind of just want to go off field a little bit briefly. I watched a lot of other sports, and I think basketball is a sport where we're always focused on talent. I'm guilty of that as well. I am definitely guilty of doing that. But we're always talking about how many 20-point per game scorers do they have? How many all-stars do they have? How many blah, blah, blah? How many of these good players do they have? Instead of looking at a team and going, oh, this team likes playing with each other. Oh, this team likes playing defense. Oh, this team doesn't make mistakes on the defensive end of the floor. They make the right rotations. There's no real weak links defensively. They do all of these things really well. And, well, there's no surprise that they're a good team in hindsight. And that's kind of what we're seeing with the New York Knicks. They don't have the most talent in the league. No offense. Julius Randle, most improved player. Coming from a Pistons fan, yes, it's Julius Randle, because he's gone from, what, a role player? I know he was putting up numbers. There's a difference between putting up numbers, translating that to wins, making mistakes game after game, and now looking like an all-star, all-NBA level player. Some would even say MVP. I'm not willing to go that far, but he has been playing like an MVP the last 10 or so games and an all-NBA player the entire season. So he's been great. RJ Barrett's a future all-star, and there's other players on the list. It's definitely a more talented and better roster than last season, but it's not the most talented roster, and it's not a roster that you would probably associate with being the 4th seed in the East, but they've done it through everyone buying in and playing their role. And before we talk about the team as a whole and the defense, all of that good stuff, let's just talk about some of the improvements. As I mentioned before, the most improved player on the season, in my opinion, it's Julius Randle. I mean, he's gone from someone that the organization were trying to get rid of. I mean, they drafted Obi Toppin for a reason. New York fans didn't want him there. He knew that. He's talked about that. He knew the fans didn't want him there. The organization probably didn't want him there either, but they were kind of just stuck with him, and I'm sure they're glad they were, because he's gone from someone who was a non-shooter, a guy who shot over 30% once from 3 in his first 6 NBA seasons, 27% last year. Please, Julius, shoot. That's the opposition's game plan heading into the game. Julius Randle, take all the 3-point shots you want. Now, all of a sudden, 1 year later, he's shooting 40% from 3 on over 5 attempts a game. He's a lethal 3-point shooter. He's doing it from all spaces on the floor. It's not like, oh, he's just shooting corner threes. He's not PJ Tucker. This guy is legitimately 40% all around the arc. He's better at mid-range now. He's shooting over 40% for the first time in his career from the mid-range at 42%, which isn't unbelievable, but you consider a lot of the tough shots he takes. He's got a big offensive load, so the Knicks don't mind him taking those tough shots. It's not a huge deal, but he's improved in that aspect. He's improved with his touch around to the rim. All of these aspects of his game are improving, and I look at the plays he's making right now. His defense is improved, and his decision making is improved on offense. Just look at the last game against the Atlanta Hawks in overtime. Randle's got 40 points. He's blistering hot. No one can stop him. And instead of taking a pull-up mid-range shot when he gets chased off the line, he kicks it out to a Reggie Bullock open three. Bang. One possession later, goes back down the court, dribbles off again, finds an open Nerlens Noel under the rim. Bang, easy dunk. No one would have been mad at Julius Randle if he took 2 pull-up mid-range shots in both of those situations, given he was the hottest player on the night. But instead, made the right decisions, found his open teammates, and in the end, the Knicks benefited as a result. So that's exactly what's happened, and I think that just speaks to the Knicks as a whole, because you've got someone like Julius Randle, his playmaking, his confidence in the team, kind of just, it's infectious. When your best player is happy to pass up an open kind of mid-range shot, somewhat open, and find an open shooter, or find someone under the rim for better shots, that's contagious, and that works on both ends of the floor. When your best player wants to play defense, when all of your guys want to play defense, when all of your guys want to pass the ball, all of a sudden, the guys that are 7th or 8th in the rotation, they're going to have no problem doing it. They're going to have no problem playing 10 minutes a night one night and then 30 minutes a night the other night, because you're seeing the results. You can't just look at this team and go, why aren't I playing? I could be the difference. No, you're not the difference, because right now, whatever Tom Thibodeau is doing, whatever New York are doing is working. So you can't really complain. Getting back to improvement, and particularly the shooting aspect of things, I mean, RJ Barrett, he went from someone who was getting clowned for his shooting. I mean, Anthony Edwards is still clowning him for his shooting, which is statistically wrong, because over the last couple of months, he's been 45% from 3 on nearly 4 attempts a game. He's been lights out in the clutch as well. I know Anthony Edwards said they want the ball in RJ Barrett's hands. I mean, that's not a good idea, but it's still funny for him to say that, but it's not a good idea because he's been lights out. Not only is this just going to help him, I mean, shooting the ball, I know, I'm a genius, but also it's going to help him make plays because the defense are going to start to collapse on him. He can drive to the rim. That's his specialty. We know eventually he's going to be an elite finisher at the rim. He's already getting better. So once he does that even better, then he's going to start to open up his game playmaking because defenses are going to start to press him again. All of a sudden, you're shooting, you're playmaking, everything benefits as a result of shooting the 3-ball, and RJ Barrett is doing that a lot better than he was last season. Look, I think with the Knicks this season, in my opinion, a great way to sum them up is thinking back to earlier in the season, playing against the Brooklyn Nets, who were red hot at the time, one of the best teams in the league, and the game looked over. Most people were expecting them just to foul and try to make a few shots here and there, and then, I guess, kind of just a consolation thing. But they fought it out to the end. They played defense, they tried to force stops, and they forced back-to-back held balls. I think, did they force a turnover as well? They at least forced back-to-back held balls, and they extended the game. In the end, they almost went to overtime. I mean, Julius Randle got slapped, Kyrie Irving, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just seeing their intensity down the stretch, their willingness to continue to try and fight and extend the game. And it wasn't just the fact that, oh, they wanted to do it. That's cool and all, but it was the fact that they were actually able to make the right decisions under pressure against such a great team. And that's when I was like, this is a legitimately good team and a very good defense. Okay, it's one thing to be like, oh, we want to force stops, we want to force turnovers down the stretch. It's another thing to go in and double team straight away, not force a foul, not do any of those undisciplined things. That, in my opinion, was just a really impressive stretch of play that I thought sums up kind of what the Knicks have been this season. But outside of just 30 seconds at the end of the game, they've been an elite defense for 60 games this season. They've been a fantastic defense, the 4th-rated defense in the NBA currently. And, well, just for Knicks fans, if you want a little bit more hope, look at the top 5 defenses from the last several years. Is there any pretenders on this list? There's just not. If you're an elite defense, normally you're just a very good NBA team. It's that simple. Like, look at these teams. They've all had good records. I mean, last season, every single top 5 defense made it past the first round of the playoffs. The elite defenses are generally great teams, and right now, the Knicks are a great team on an 8-game winning streak, playing fantastic defense, playing fantastic basketball. And again, that little 30 seconds a minute against the Brooklyn Nets, that's just kind of an encapsulation of what the Nets have done all season really well, and a reason why they're 5th in the NBA at keeping opponents below their 2-point percentage and 1st in the NBA at keeping opponents below their 3-point percentage. They make the right rotations, they're quick on their feet. Their decision making is smart, concise. They know their game plan. They know if they don't play defense, they're getting subbed out. Thibodeau is not having any of that. If you don't play defense, you're not going to be in the game. And I think it's easy for me, and maybe for you guys, if I just compare it to another team that I've watched quite a lot of, and Knicks fans, you'll like this team as well, because it's your future all-star player, Zion Williamson, coming to New York in a couple of years after the way he was blushing about Madison Square Garden. But looking at the Pelicans, their defense is woeful. They're terrible at allowing teams to just shoot threes. And I look at the Pelicans, it's one play, there'll be someone who rotates slowly. There'll be someone who makes the wrong decision to double team. There'll be someone who closes out at the wrong time. He doesn't make the closeout. All of these little things that add up a lot and allow NBA teams, the best players in the world, to torch you. The Knicks don't have any of those ill-disciplined mistakes. Very rarely anyways. They consistently rotate. They consistently take pride in making defensive stops. Reggie Bullock at the end of games getting in the passing lanes. Nerlens Noel blocking shots. Julius Randle, your best player, being engaged defensively all game long. That trickles down. It's pretty easy to see why this team loves playing with each other, which is clear. You can see the spirit in their team. Like I mentioned, Austin Rivers, before he got packed up, said something about how he really liked how this team was playing. He thought there was a really nice energy and spirit with his team. They weren't like a bad team like they were in the past, or like people had perceived them to be this year. And you can see that in the way they play, in the way they communicate, in the way they make the rotations. Everything defensively is just fantastic about the New York Knicks. In terms of the playoff picture, it's too early to predict. I mean, I don't know who they're going to be playing. I don't know where they're going to be playing, if there's going to be fans, all of those things. But all I'll say is, like I mentioned, the top 5 teams from last year with the best defensive rating all made it past the first round of the playoffs. So the New York Knicks, can they continue that trend? All I know is they've got Julius Randle, who's been one of the best 10 to 15 players in the league this season, at least over the last 30 or 40 games, definitely. They've got an elite defense, a coach that's been there before. They've got some nice veteran presences and some nice young guys that aren't afraid of the moment, like Emmanuel Quickley. And all of a sudden, that's a team that can cause an upset. If it's even an upset at this point in time, but if they were up against like a team like the Celtics, that would still be considered an upset. That's all I've got to say. If I missed a few points, it's probably because I spent 30 minutes talking about the Knicks just before. Anyways, if you did make it to the end, a like would be greatly appreciated. Subbing to the channel would be cool as well. Have a great day. I'll catch you next time. Bye.